If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel, and if you like the video at the end, click on the thumbs up. Hello everyone, and welcome to Crypto Night, the crypto investor channel. I'm Boris, so let's dive in. Today I'm with Colton. How you doing, Colton?
I'm doing great, Boris. How are you?
Good. We're going to be discussing a little bit what's going on, the conflict with Russia and the Western world, and the whole inflation story, with Fed Chair Powell and what is he going to do and what is the Fed going to do. So people are worried. The stock market has been taking kind of a dive. At the same time, crypto has been holding somewhat. It's not taking a major dive. It went from about 45,000 a Bitcoin down to about 42,000 now. So it's taken a small retreat, but nothing really catastrophic, especially for Bitcoin in general. So let's discuss, real quick, what does that mean? So first of all, on the conflict right now that we see with Russia. First of all, it doesn't look like the US or anyone's going to go to war. Worst case scenario, Russia will go invade the Ukraine and there'll be sanctions and that'll be the end of it. But a few years back, they went and captured Crimea. Nobody moved, nobody did anything. Did that change anything? Not really. That didn't change a thing. You have to remember those satellite countries, they used to be part of the USSR. And so the thing is, there are always two sides to a story. So the fact that Ukraine wants to join the US and the Western countries, be part of the European Union, they want to be part of NATO. Of course, the Russians are not happy about that because they're like, these guys are right at our gate. They are like right in front of us. When Germany joined Europe and they joined, eventually NATO, and they were American bases, there are a few countries between Germany and the USSR. There's mainly Poland, basically, that's in between. So it's not immediate. The Ukraine, they are right there. They touch Russia, So, and they used to be one of the main countries of the when it was the USSR, bloc, and they were part of that bloc. So. I can understand why the Russians are not too happy about it. So the Western countries are trying to make it sound like, yeah, but they're really being, pro-wars. They're moving their troops. They're doing this. They're doing that. I think it's like chess. Sometimes you move some pieces because you're trying to align an attack, but sometimes it's to also force a retreat. And I think that maybe the Russians are pushing all those things in one direction, is to say, you know what, if you want things to decrease, and actually they've said that today and yesterday, if you want things to, you want to de-escalate what's going on, if you want to, things to go back to normal, how about Ukraine just says they're not going to be part of the EU and they're not going to be part of NATO.
Yeah.
As simple as that, And I think that if that was going into that direction, then probably the Russians, they would be more likely to say, okay, let's not try to create another conflict. So we'll see what happens. But no matter what, whether there is an attack or there's not an attack, if there's not an attack, things will probably get back to being better. And if there was an attack, I think it's going to be short-lived for the stock markets and for the Bitcoins. It's probably going to be something where we see a drop and it's going to last a few weeks, And then after a few weeks might be just like, okay, you know what, conflict is over, uh, everything is done, let's just move on, you know.
Yeah.
So when we've seen full-fledged wars in the past, like, you know, the war in the Persian Gulf or some other of those things, usually it didn't take very long for the stock markets to rebound.
Yeah.
So on average, I think it's like about 2 months
Yep.
before stock market rebounds. So I think that's what we're most likely going to see here. And if it is really short-lived, and if they actually have some kind of an agreement, and they say, okay, we all agree that, you know, maybe for the next 30 years, Ukraine will never be part of NATO, or, you know, or the European Union for 30 years, or something that reassures the Russian nothing's going to move for a while. I think that thing could be appeased. So we'll see what happens on that side. What do you think on your side, Colton?
Personally, I have no clue really what's going to happen here in the U.S. You get, a lot of mix of news. As I was telling you before the phone call, the opening ceremony was last week. Mike Tirico and the NBC crew, the first 30 minutes, that's all
The
that was
opening
talked about.
ceremony of the Olympic Games.
Yeah, opening ceremony. Mike Tirico, the host. That's all they talked about for the first 30 minutes. They had the camera on Putin. They had the camera on China's dictator. They were sitting together. Ukraine walked by. He gave a dirty look to Ukraine. So, you get a lot of mixed info over here, listening to what you have to say, compared to what we get here in the U.S. with the propaganda. I kind of agree with you. I think, if they kind of take a step back and say, hey, we're not going to join NATO or the European Union, I think, Putin is a reasonable human. He'll take a step back and say, you know what, we're not going to do anything. But all the information, we get here in the U.S., it sounds like, if he does invade, it sounds like World War III is going to happen. So, we got the propaganda here. I'm personally don't believe into it. I don't think there'll be a World War III, but you just never know. Biden seems to have a quick trigger with this presidency. So he met with Putin already twice in his presidency. So I'm not 100% sure, but from the information you're giving me from the non-propaganda, I do think there is a chance that, ties will be settled and there will be no war.
Yeah, anything can happen, but. And second, I don't believe the Americans will go to war for Ukraine. I mean, they will put sanctions, and that'll be the end of it. They'll say like, hey, this is really bad. You shouldn't do it. We're not happy. We're gonna put sanctions where it's gonna hurt you financially, and that will be it.
And
it won't be another. I don't think they'll send troops. They've already had Afghanistan. They already had Iraq. Already had so many conflicts that have ended really badly for the U.S. So they're like, man, the Ukraine. What the hell do we even care about the Ukraine? Like, people feel bad for Ukrainians. It's not their fault or whatever. But the U.S. isn't going to go to war for something that used to be part of the USSR bloc anyway, decades ago.
Yep. And Biden has pulled, most of the people, anyone at the embassy, he's told to come home, So I don't think if he's pulling people out, he's going to send troops in. It has been reported that he has sent, military, tools over, such as tanks, guns, etc. But I don't see us, like you said, going to war for such a country that really brings no value to the United States, But again, Biden, seems to want to protect them. So, you never know at the end of the day. But I don't see him, I think he knows that would end his presidency and he had no chance at re-election, in 2 years here.
Yeah. So on that side, that's that thing. We'll see what happens over the next few days and what happens. Then there's the inflation. The numbers came out last week. They were not very good, but they were not that far off from what people thought it was going to be. So they're having an emergency meeting, which is taking place today. I forgot at what time it's supposed to be over or whatever, so they'll probably have a press conference after it, but it's probably going to be later in the day. But no matter what, um, whether they raise the rates quickly, faster than they thought they would, people tend to overreact. I think most of that thing has been priced in already, both in the stock market and the crypto market. So you could see a little further dip, of a quick panic sell of a few people saying like, oh my God, this is really bad. That's it. They're raising the rates and it was supposed to be a month from now and it's now. It really doesn't matter. I think at the end, everybody knows it's coming. So, and I don't think it's going to be really that bad. Another thing people forget, they say it's the worst. That's kind of funny to think about it. This is the worst inflation numbers we've had since 1982.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, but wasn't the 80s followed by the 90s some of the best years? 1982 is at the beginning of Reagan's, presidency. And it was at the beginning of the 80s, 1982. So the numbers were really bad in 1982, and then the rest of the 80s were pretty good, financially. Now, of course, there was the crash of 1997, but it was kind of short-lived. Everything rebounded kind of quickly after that, so it was probably bad for like maybe about a year or something. But things got really good into the 90s, the economy was really good. So sometimes people think like, oh my God, inflation is really bad. Yeah, but sometimes it's bad temporarily. And then things tend to get back to normal. It's kind of a balance thing. It balances eventually. So the over panic of people selling everything like it's a fire sale makes really no sense to me. I think it's just pure panic. People need to take a chill pill and really take it a little bit easier sometime and not always be in catastrophe mode.
Well, the first thing I think about is, at least for me, was 2007, 2008 when the housing market crashed. And, I was young, I was in middle school. I saw people selling their houses left and right. I had no clue why. People, left the neighborhood when I was living in Florida at the time. Houses were popping up left and right for sale. So, I do remember that. Like you said, people, get scared and immediately put their house on the market. And I'm sure the same thing with stocks and crypto when this happens. But I mean, I don't know if you watched the Super Bowl yesterday, but everything's inflated. The Super Bowl, NBC or Wells Fargo did a study. The Super Bowl, your price for a Super Bowl party was up 25%, as of last year. Chicken wings were up 18%. They sold soda. Soda's now $6 a 12 pack. That's up almost 14%. So, everything has an inflation now with what's going on. So.
Yeah. So the thing is, people tend to over panic, oversell when they shouldn't. So I think that we've already seen a lot of this thing being priced in. There could be a little more, but the long term, 6 months, a year, 2 years, I think that things will start improving, especially in crypto. I mean, we're not here really to talk so much about the stock market, but even the stock market, will rebound. And but definitely in the crypto world, I think we're just getting more and more opportunities to see some better prices. So that's it. It just seems like these days some people are getting restless because they are like, oh my God, it was bad news after bad news after bad news after bad news. Yeah, but I think that also probably some people that want to invest in the stock market, in the crypto market, they love this because they're like, man, please have more bad news coming in so that we can get it on the cheap.
Exactly. I'll buy at the dip. Yep, I'll buy at the dip. Exactly. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So... but those two things, they've already been kind of priced in. And especially the inflation part. I think what wasn't so much priced in is the conflict. But the conflict, you really don't know what's happening for sure. You know, if it's all a manipulation, if it's done on purpose to try to manipulate the market. So there are multiple things that can be, you know, and especially the narrative. You know, the fact that it's so blown out of proportion, especially when I read the U.S. news versus some of the European news.
That's what I told you. It's bad.
Yeah, when you look at the U.S. news, it's number one in the news. When you go to see European news, you know, it is not the number one. I haven't checked the BBC today, but so yeah, they seem to be aligned with the U.S. Like Russia making serious preparation for invasion, according to the Prime Minister. So
it's basically World War III. That's what they're talking about in the news here in the U.S. That's why I said, you know, until I got your information, I mean, it sounds, at least here in the U.S., it sounds like, you know, there's going to be another war. I mean, that's really what it sounds like.
yeah, no, I agree, and if you look at you know, at some of the other news in other countries in Europe, you know, they don't seem to be as concerned. So
well,
so,
another thing is I'm sure, as you know, Boris, the local elections are about to go on here in the next 2 months. So, you know, we send those people to Austin, to the capitals, and those who vote for the president. So, you know, people are talking this could be another stint to, AKA, get Abbott out of, you know, being the governor of Texas, or another person being the governor out of another place, because, you know, that voting starts here in about 2 months here in the U.S. So that could be a ploy, you know, too, as well. But it's all weird. It's all, you know, we're going to World War III. It's all doomsday pretty much in the news.
Yeah. Another thing that's kind of funny, and I just wanted to show you this real quick. Maybe I'll just share my screen real quick, and how, you know, flip-flopping everything can be, and how quick it can be flip-flopping. You know, so here it is. That's the NASDAQ is not even open yet, and it's at minus 0.1%. But earlier it was at minus 1.5% almost. You know, so suddenly, boom, it jumped big time. You see how there's a big jump right here? You know, so this is pre-market, so it started around midnight U.S. time, you know, and it went down. Suddenly, boom, it dropped really bad. It was really bad for a while.
And then skyrocketed. Yeah.
And then it skyrocketed, you know. Trust me, some people are making serious money out there, whether it's going to be the guys selling the weapons or the guys who have stocks in weapons, you know. And even if there is no war, just the fact that people get scared, their stock's going to go through the roof. They're going to sell a bunch. And then when things quiet down, like, okay, no, it's not as bad, you know, and we're sitting down at the negotiating table. Things look promising. And then whatever, they sign some kind of an agreement. And then suddenly those stocks are going to fall back down. And those guys will buy them all back. And basically they would have made a ton of money doing nothing, just selling and buying it back.
Yep.
So, you know, the narratives, they're always manipulated because there's always something that is happening that could make someone a lot of money. So, but don't be fooled. You know, the thing is out there, if you have crypto, probably the best thing to do right now, you know, is to hodl, is to keep it and see what happens next. If you see that there are further corrections, you can buy small amounts, you know, because we don't know where it's all going. But hopefully pretty soon it'll come right, you know, back to normal. And it's funny how you see the stories changing all the time. You know, 2 months, 3 months ago, it was China and the construction company like Evergrande and all those companies that, oh my God, they're gonna, you know, they're not gonna be able to make their payments. suddenly all that thing is out the window. It's like those
Yeah.
stories don't even count anymore.
Yep.
And now it's about the war, and then 2 months from now will be some other story.
Yep.
Remember, there are asteroids heading for Earth right now that will probably destroy the Earth at some point. There's always a bad narrative somewhere.
Yep.
I mean, in this
There's
case, don't
clickbait
ever invest
everywhere.
into anything. Don't ever take any risks, and don't ever do anything, because
Yep.
there's always danger somewhere. There's always problems.
Definitely. And as you can see, that first article underneath you, Boris, it's just a bunch of clickbait. I mean, as you see, that's all it is at the end of the day. So, but
Yeah.
that's the news in the U.S. Like when you asked me about it, I was
Well,
like,
it's the news almost everywhere. It's not just the
Yeah.
US. I think it's pretty much everywhere.
But that's why when you asked me, I was like, I really don't know, because here it sounds like World War III. Your perspective, it sounds like it's another day and they're going to drop it. So that's at the end of the day, we just get two different newses. So
Yeah, no, they definitely. But all right, so don't play too much in those narratives, and don't be panicking too much about what's going on. Take it one day at a time. Let's look at things, but more quietly, like, hey, let's have a calm head and not rush and rash decisions. And let's see what happens next. So any other comment, Colton?
from my side, that's it, Boris, for today.
Okay, well, thank you, Colton. Thank you, everyone. We hope this video helps, and we look forward to see you on the next video of Kryptonite. Thank you. Bye-bye. I hope this video helps. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. And if you like the video at the end, click on the thumbs up.